I had a feeling one time I was in another world before this one. I'd done a work in another world. And for a long time I would never tell nobody about it because I knew people would say I was, you know, crazy. Well, this world's a strange place. I'm not of this world myself. I don't even claim to be of this world. I'm just passing through here on a journey, you know, a trip. I have inspiration from another world, what to do next, and my whole life's been like a book of blueprints, you know. And it's been a wonderful life. I have visions from God. I have visions of other worlds. And that's the reason I feel there's a second Noah, because I'm doing just exactly what he's done. He warned them against the flood, and I'm warning them against the end of time, because I've had visions of the end of time. And I'm writing the visions down here and preaching them off of my heart. And I'm trying to tell you that the Bible said there'd be some that see visions that's old, and some would see visions that the young and old both would see visions. And I've seen visions both young and old. I'm Howard Finster from another world, sent to Earth's planet. I'm not here just on a vacation. I'm not here just getting a little publicity for myself. I'm here to do a job. And I'm doing it, and I'm doing it well.
My name is Jim Bagley. I'm from Somerville, Georgia. I've been here all my life. I've known Mr. Howard Finster. We called him back years ago Preacher Finster, as long as I can remember knowing anyone. He worked on my bicycles, and I've just known him forever, and I always thought that he was a super nice person, even before he became famous.
Howard Finster was born in 1916 and only went to school through the 6th grade. At a very, very early age, he began to preach. And he preached for the next 40 years, oftentimes at tent revivals. He was incredibly charismatic. At one point, he referred to himself as a second Noah, calling people to get on board, literally, before it was too late.
I pastored a bunch of churches. In fact, I pastored 10 different churches. And I stayed several years at some of them. I stayed as high as 15 years at one church, marrying people, and burying people, and preaching, running a revival.
During those years, he had to make ends meet. He had 5 children. They didn't have a lot of money. So he worked also as a fix-it man. And he would repair clocks and bicycles. He repaired televisions, lawnmowers, etc.
Dad wanted every little child to have a bicycle. You know, he would take old rusty frames and we'd sand them down and paint them, and so that little children, all of them, could have bikes.
The Lord would give me a picture of the night after I'd lay down what to do the next day, see, and I just go ahead and do that. And when I started on it, I wasn't expect to excite the whole world. And the first thing I knew, there's people from New York, flying over from Germany.
I remember when Michael Stipe and his band just first started coming around here. And there was so many people came here. You didn't know who they were or what their walk in life it was. A guy that played in Crocodile Dundee, some of his friends even came through here.
There were times you couldn't get out in your backyard, wasn't there, without somebody taking your picture?
Yeah. Yeah, you'd go out the door and there'd be somebody with a camera.
We were going to do a video for Radio Free Europe off our very first album, and Michael said there's this beautiful garden up in Somerville, Georgia, where it's just full of magical, wonderful creations and things. And he said, I think that'd be a great setting for the video.
Some people who had looked at trained artists' work came to Paradise Garden and thought, this is the most exciting, inspiring, beautiful work of art that I've ever seen. And here was this man creating this fantastic environment.
The garden was the very origin of things that then came out later, and it was part and parcel of everything he did.
Well, in building this right here, I put things in there that people bring here and donate to be molded in. They want to dedicate some of their jewelry or some of their things, and so I mold them in for them, and they come here through the years and look at them. One little boy came and brought his tonsils, and the doctor had put them up in alcohol, and he wanted to mold it in. They've been here about 3 years, and people come here and want to see that boy's tonsils.
One of the many great things about Howard Finster as an artist was that he was not only a visual artist, but that he was an environmental artist. And America is actually quite rich in environmental artists. They're all over the country. Those environments are our legacy as much as Mount Rushmore is our legacy, as much as our fabulous museums are our legacy. Those speak very, very directly about place. They speak very directly about the person who made it and the community in which that person thrived. Those environments are incredibly precious.
If people have been here when Howard started the garden and maybe seen it at its most refreshing time, they sometimes come back and say, oh, it used to be beautiful. And that really touches me because I've been here all my life. I go down there and I still think this is beautiful. It's beautiful. It was beautiful then. It's still beautiful now. And I come to feel of it like it's sacred grounds. When you're in here and it's just something majestic about it. I think Howard built it all like a temple to God. All of it is just like one big thing for God.
Dipped my finger in white paint one day to patch something. I think it was a bicycle fender. And I looked at my finger to see if there's too much paint on it. One day, I dipped my finger in some white paint like that and picked it up. And when I picked it up, it formed a face before I ever seen a face like that. And there's a human face right there in that paint. When I dipped it in paint to patch something with, there was a human face on this finger here. Something sort of like that. There's two eyes and a nose and everything, or the whole face, and you see my finger's round anyhow. It looks sort of like a face. Now, that's not much of a good picture, but that's what I seen on the end of my finger. I seen this face on the end of my finger. All it like is a little hair around top of it. And something said to me, paint sacred art. Paint sacred art. A divine feeling just came kind of over me and said, paint sacred art. It just spoke to me, do sacred art, something like that. And I think to myself, paint sacred art? And I said to it, I can't. I know professionals can, but not me. And then it come to me again, Howard, how do you know you can't? How do you know? Well, that was another problem. How do I know that I can't paint? How do you know? How do you know? How do you know? How do you know? And I thought to myself, how do I know?
In 1976, he felt he got a calling to create sacred art, to the exclusion of everything else. He put down his tools literally in cement. He laid them in the cement and made the statement that he was devoting himself full force to preaching the Word of God in a way that would stay with people.
I would never dreamed about when I started making art, like that little old clock here a while ago she had. I didn't have no idea of doing all that stuff. I just started doing it. And the people loved it. It became a hit. I'm rising up high. Well, I'm art, the art people, the people of art in the world is a kind of a religion. Artists have kind of a religion, you know, and they sort of keep up with one another, know one another pretty well. And so I feel like that I'm sort of in the art family now. It's a good religion.
I think it was easy to understand why so many New York artists were so interested in Reverend Finster's work, and you could see the passion was quite right there on the surface, and it was the same sort of energy that fueled so many of the beautiful wall paintings of Jean-Michel Basquiat, or any of those great sort of subway art from Keith Haring. You could see that exact sort of immediacy. It was a drive, an urge.
Chief Haring, after he come down here, he was dying with age. I didn't know it. You know, I never was around very many real big artists, you know, and I've had people telling for me a month what a great artist you were and how big you were, and I was almost afraid for you to come. And let's say you're one of the great ones.
I know. I think you're one of the great ones.
Yeah. Well, that's wonderful, Chief.
I'm glad. No, I'm glad I finally got to see it. I've been wanting to come here for a long time.
Yeah, he come to see me before he died, and he helped me put that bottle together in 3 sections. Put it now. Push it this way now. Make it go in there. Make it all go in there. Now you got it crooked, a little bit crooked.
We got to turn it this way a little bit.
Wait, don't put it. You don't want to put it this way.
Yeah, put the brads even on the side.
Now, this is going to the High Museum?
Yeah.
They're putting it in the museum?
Yeah, it'll be in the High Museum there with the executives and everything, you know, and one of the big Coca-Cola fellas is going to represent it to me at a book signing down there, and me working on it, you know. Right. Now, right there, hold the ladder. And you got hold the top of it. Now you fellas follow him on up with that. Just stay right in behind him. One of you might have to get on the ladder here. I don't know whether Chief Haring or to get up there or not.
Let's go put the
There you go.
There you go. You know you guys are working today.
Pulling over and
Is it lined up?
Yeah, the cap. What do you think about the lid? That fella on top gonna get that cap put in my breech.
Okay. There you go. Is it lined up on the side or has it swinging?
Perfect.
Perfect. Lined up.
Is that okay?
Yeah, all right.
Perfect, yeah. You got to go down.
Chief Haring.
Chief.
I have my new name. I know.
How did this fellow from Somerville, Georgia, who didn't travel a whole lot, how did he get on Johnny Carson's show? How did his work get shown at the Museum of American Folk Art in New York City? The first people to really look at Howard as an artist and to take him seriously as an artist were people from University of Georgia at Athens, and that would be Andy Nassis and Victor Facento. And they shepherded his early career in that they had shows at their university and then other smaller institutions around the South. Howard's work went from the garden through the university system and students and later into the gallery system and the museum system.
When the New York audience met him at Payne Weber, and that's when I met Allen Ginsberg at the museum, people were storming him as though he was Elvis Presley. He wore a suit made by, I think, a member of his family worked for a band instrument company. And so it was very bright, and he was all decked out. But fans came as though he was really a rock star.
There was a buzz about Howard Finster. His work was being shown at the Phyllis Kind Gallery in Soho, and that was on the beaten path. We all went to the Phyllis Kind Gallery to see all her shows throughout the 80s, and Howard was one of the stars.
The totally genuine earnestness of this man was relentless. The very fact that he was forced by his own inner self to make this message was what really meant everything in the world to me. He had an incredible color sense. He knew how to make deep space and how to change perspective and how to make it flatten out suddenly. The way that he was able to use space and do it consistently, but always challenging himself and sort of moving out so that his range included works on metal, works on wood, even prints that he made.
He had an extraordinary visual imagination. I was thinking on the way here this morning of one incredible painting Howard did about the force of good and evil, where the serpent, the serpent as the devil, his mouth being propped open and then incapable of devouring people, his mouth was propped open by the Bible. And it's an amazing metaphor.
How can you not say Howard was the most creative artist alive? Look at the guy's imagination. It just blows everyone else away. Howard Finster blows everyone else away and leaves them all in the dust with his unbridled creativity and his extremely wild and wonderful imagination.
The thing that was most amazing about Howard was that he could not make art.
In the visual arts, it's a miracle that sometimes happens. And Howard was a very good example of that miracle.
Just a little stone on the pillar of your house. Just a little stone on the pillar of your house. Just a little stone on the pillar of your house to hold your house together. And they called on me to come, this big star that just retired, Johnny Carson's show. They called me there.
Would you welcome Howard Finster? Howard?
And I sung this little song. And I sung this, his congregation just had a fit. They just almost come down off of that arena when I sung that song. And Johnny didn't know what to do. I had a special request to sing a song that I made up in the Library of Congress. I was up in the Library of Congress and I was talking on some paintings I did for the Library of Congress, you know. And when they said, Howard says you paint and all, says, what else do you do? I says, I make up little songs and sing them. I said, well, sing one. And that's where I made this song up. It's standing right in the main office of the Library of Congress. That's where I made it up at and sung it. And then the Wake Forest University started producing that little record, you know. Now, you know, I play by ear, and since I've got old and can't hear, I don't know how I do it. A little warm up. I'll just sing about a verse or two of this little song now. You never had a guy on TV like me before. It just cut loose and acted like a fellow had been born that way instead of getting up and following rules. This song that I'm fixing to sing, I'm just a little tack in the shingle of your roof. You know, all of y'all got roofs, you know, and I'm just a little tack in the shingle of your roof tonight. You know what happens when the tack comes out? Good. Just a little tack in the shingle of your roof. Just a little tack in the shingle of your roof. Just a little tack in the shingle of your roof. Hold your house together. Come on back, stay with me. Come on back, let me see. Come on back, stay with me. Make your little house what it ought to be. Make your little house what it ought to be. Just a little nail in the plank of your wall. Just a little nail in the plank of your wall. Just a little nail in the plank of your wall to hold your house together. Come on back, stay with me. Come on back, let me see. Oh, come on back, stay with me. Make your little house what it ought to be. Make your little house what it ought to be. Hey!
Sure. Well, Howard. I know.
He was showing a picture of my garden when I got up there. And I was looking at it. He was looking at it. Everybody was looking at it. And he said, Howard says, what's that on your mind to build a thing like that garden? I said, well, Johnny, I said, the thing about it is, I said, just like you. You know, like if you had a place itching up here on your head, Johnny, and the first time that you put your hand up there, you put your hand right on where it is. Don't matter where it is at, you'd put your hand on it, you know. I said, if you had a place on your head that was itching, you could go to it the first time and touch it and scratch it. And if you used to ask me to scratch it, I wouldn't know where to look. And see, I just had a feeling to build this garden. Like you have a feeling, you know right what to scratch.
That makes very good sense.
I said, that's the way that I built that garden. I had a feeling to do it. Just like you have a feeling to scratch when you're itching. And that really tore the congregations up. They really had fun out of that. But that's the truth. That was a good message. Yeah, I've been requested several times to sing this little tune. I sung it out there. It's like when I come into California, you know, I just said, just hanging around, oh, California land, all the pretty girls, they fell into my hands. They leaned back on my thumb. They looked down in my face. I thought I heard them say, did you come from space? Well, I've nothing to lose. Everything is to gain. If I lose my mind, I'll get a super brain.
Well, he never run out of words. That's about all I can say. He always had a message if he had a chance to preach.
I think the most important thing about Howard is that he was proselytizing for Jesus. He was not making art. And that gives the art itself a kind of energy, which is a part of a primary obsession.
He is a person that was a preacher first, artist second. But as I think about it more and more, they go hand in hand for him.
We got a whole world right now, it's uneasy. We got a whole world right now, it's living in fear. We got a whole world right now that peace has been took away from us. Just on account of people building atomic weapons and destructive things like the hydrogen bombs and things like that. Well, the Bible said that peace should be taken from the earth. You run up on a young boy or girl, they usually have taken dope or something to forget about it. And people don't want to think about it. Even a little kid, sit around and ask their grandfather about what's going to happen when this time comes. And it's pitiful that the fear is coming, see. When faith moves out, then worry moves in. And then when faith moves in, then worry moves out. What the world needs is faith. Faith in one another. The nations are losing confidence in one another. They don't trust one another. That's a bad thing. They need to come to the table and reason together. The nations of the world. We could save our land and save all our people. Everybody could be happy and we could enjoy what we got left. And then I'd rather we'd all starve together than all of us just be burned up and lay around and die with swords on the side of the road. It's a strange world. Everything's been strange ever since I was born and come into this world. And I get around with the birds and the hens and the fish and things. They all getting along good. They ain't making no bombs nor nothing. The fowls and the butterflies and everything like that. They're wonderful people to be around. Little ants, they go on, no leader, nobody to bother them. They all live together. They get along. Don't matter if a black cat comes along, well, he gets along with a white cat. Spotted cow gets along with black cows, and they might have a little spat once in a while, but don't have no all-out wars. And if people would just consider the animals, like Proverbs said, go and consider the ant. Watch it. Be wise. If the world would stop and go sit down at an ant hill and watch the ants a while, and just take information from them, while the world could be in peace.
vision was about it, God was showing me that the sting of death is nothing to His people. My imagination is when a fellow walks into the holy city and the heaven above, that he'll plumb forget about this whole thing down here. I doubt if there'll be anything in this world right here now that would even stand a chance of being praised or looking at it the second time. It just wouldn't be worth it. Because in heaven there's going to be gold streets. In heaven there's going to be lions laying around on the palms and babies in their paws playing with them. And all of these things that Howard Finster never dreamed about speaking of. Things that you never even dreamed about thinking of. You're going to see when you get up there. Or even when you're here. If Jesus was coming now, the dead would immediately be raised, and you look through these treetops and see them flying over like jet planes everywhere.
But I'll never forget Daddy's eyes. His eyes just sparkle like lights. I'll never forget the light in his eyes. When they were open and he was looking at the ceiling. And I think that's when he was going home.
Fa, sol, la, mi, fa, sol, la, la. What ship is this that will take us all home? Glory, glory, hallelujah. It's the old ship of Zion, hallelujah, hallelujah. And our captain of Zion, hallelujah. That's a 4-note. Thing.
Come, tell me of the ship and what is her name. Oh.
His art remains with me forever. So, and I'm sure with all those that see it, learn about it, and experience it. So Howard is still here.
Maybe he was a visiting alien, I don't know, but he certainly got a lot of information that's not available to most of us, so that was pretty riveting just to hear those simultaneous streams of consciousness running through his brain and out his mouth, and thankfully out of his hands too, so now we get to appreciate it.
Things that were touched by him were touched by God.
Howard Finster is dying to come alive again.
To be in the presence of Howard Finster was something that you wouldn't forget, and I have to hand it to him. He's someone that a lot of people will remember through his art, through who he was as a person. He turned a lot of people's lives around, and I think for an artist, for a teacher, for anyone, if you can know that you've turned a lot of people's lives around in a positive way, it's a pretty great thing.
How did you do it all? That's what everybody said. How did you do it all? I don't know. I know one thing. It's been like a beautiful dream. It's been like a beautiful dream. It could never even, hardly ever that it seems real, but I have to accept it as real, you know.